I'm sure you've seen in the news about some people getting some more money in their monthly check, hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, getting back pay back to January of 2024 for thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, possibly even more. And I'm here to tell you that if you're watching this, there's a 97% chance it's not about you. It's not for you. This is money is not for you. So I'm going to talk about that today. I've talked about it a few times. I possibly wasn't quick enough about saying, hey, this is only about 3%. This is not the other 97%. And so people were saying, hey, this is fake news. I don't know. It's not fake news. It's actually it happened. It was signed by President Biden. It was supported by President Trump. It was a bipartisan support in the House and the Senate. It did pass. It's called the Social Security Fairness Act, but many people believe it is not fair, and I am one of those people, and we're going to talk about that today because if you're watching this, again, 97% chance you're not going to get any extra money. There are people going to get that extra money. About 3.2 million people are currently receiving their checks. I'm going to start a live Q&A here pretty soon. So this is live. So if you're watching this live, make sure if you have any questions, type them in the chat and I'll get to as many as possible. But in my YouTube comments and during the live, people say, I'm not getting this money. What's going on with this money? It's not for you. So those 3.2 million, who are they? They are people that worked for government entities, predominantly state, city, local, county or something, or work for the federal government and started their employment before the 1980s. Since the 1980s, all federal employees have been paying into Social Security if they were hired after the 1980s. So those government employees, those 3%, 3.2 million people that are receiving those extra benefits right now, and yes, they are extra benefits. I'll talk about that. The people that are receiving the 3.2 million people that are receiving benefits, there's a vast majority of those kind of know the calculations and they know it's not fair. But the others just, they want the money and they don't want to believe the reality of it. So we'll talk about that today. But those government employees, their primary jobs, whether it was a teacher, firefighter, janitor in a hospital, police officer, or whatever the case may be, and their primary jobs where they worked, they did not pay into FICA Social Security. Okay? They did not pay into Social Security, but they did. Let me say this again. They did pay into Social Security in other jobs before they worked for the police department, before they worked for the fire department, or whatever the case may be, or they worked part-time jobs, and they did pay into Social Security. And now they're receiving checks based on that Social Security, and the problem is they're going to be receiving a higher percentage than all the rest of us, including me. And people always say, well, you're a federal employee, you're going to receive the extra benefits too. No, I was hired way after in the 1980s. People think I'm 100 years old, but I was hired way after the 1980s. So I'm part of the new federal system. Federal employees, politicians, they pay into Social Security. So those people are going to be receiving those extra benefits from Social Security. And yes, they are extra benefits. They are going to be receiving a higher percentage. Okay. So this is going out to that 97% because you are going to be paying for this. You are not going to get those extra checks of $100, hundreds of dollars a month. You're not going to get any back pay. You're not going to get thousands of dollars extra a month like these 3% are going to get, these 3.2 million. You're not going to get it, but you're going to have to pay for it because it comes out of the Social Security Trust Fund. We're talking about, the estimates are about $20 billion a year that are going to come out of the Social Security Trust Fund, and over $200 billion over 10 years. And I think that's a very conservative estimate. I think it's going to cost a lot more. And that money comes out of the trust fund, and that is going to diminish the trust fund sooner, which is basically savings, to kind of cover the gap. The savings that the baby boomers put in there to the trust fund so they can use it later, that is going to diminish quicker because we're giving out, yes, these extra benefits to the 3.2 million people. So you're going to get more cuts, and it's going to come sooner, because of the Social Security Fairness Act. And that's why I and a bunch of other people recommend we have the Social Security Fairness Act 2.0 that actually makes this thing this whole thing fair. Okay. I'm going to kind of explain this one more time. I've done it several times, but if you're new to my channel, make sure you subscribe and like. And this is crazy times. If you're really new to my channel, then you probably don't know who I am. My name is Ed Weir. I ran the third business Social Security office in the country, and I've taken hundreds of thousands of retirement claims, disability claims, survivor claims. I'm helping people now that I'm retired, but I'm still back to work here, helping you make sure you're getting everything you can from Social Security, retirement, Medicare, Medicaid, and all the rest of it. So make sure you subscribe, and because these are crazy times. These are crazy times. There's going to be a lot of people that lose benefits because they're closing down offices, they're firing staff. I was contacted by a bunch of fellow employees, and bunch of them are retired, so it's gonna be chaos here for quite a while. Okay, so here's how this thing works for those people that want to know. And there's a lot of those 3.2 million people really don't want to know how this sausage is made because they just want the money. And okay, fair enough. All right, there was those people, the 3.2 million that worked in what's called non-covered employment. So they worked in entities that did not pay into Social Security. And those entities did not report that work to Social Security. So Social Security thought these people were poor because the only thing Social Security saw was what they actually paid into Social Security. So what a lot of people don't know is that Social Security, you get a higher percentage of what you paid into Social Security as a return later if you have lower lifetime earnings. Okay. All right. So the average person, the average check, the earnings is $39.55. So this is basically over a high 35 years of earnings. If you make your average your earnings over your high 35 years is $3,950, $55, you'll get 50% back. So 50% of back of that's about $1,900. Okay, and that's the average check. So you get 50% return, kind of a replacement return. If you make a lot of money throughout your life, make $10,000 average per month over those high 35 years, you're only getting a 35% return. And if you're making 11,000, 12,000, you're even making less, right? So it's a smaller percentage for higher earners, for higher average index monthly earnings is what they call it. So people that have been struggling throughout their life because of a disability or whatever the case may be, if they only have an average of $1,000 throughout their life, Congress, well, this has been a fact since 1935. This has been kind of the way it's been done since 1935, is that people that have lower income, were probably struggling throughout their life. So Congress, the president, the Social Security Act of 1935 said, okay, if you're a low income worker, we're going to give you more, a higher percentage than anybody else. Okay. And that's been the reality since 1935. So you can't argue with that, because it is the reality. But these workers that paid into Social Security and other jobs, when Social Security goes to calculate their benefits, they don't look at all the, the hundreds of thousands of dollars, $50,000 a month, $3,900, $4,000 a month that they paid as teachers and that, firefighters and police officers or whatever the case may be. They don't look at that because the system can't see that. So they treat these people as poor people, low income people. So they give them up to 60%, 70%, 80%, maybe up to 90%. So you've got a teacher, firefighter, police officer that is getting a 85% return or a 75% return now because they stopped because of the Social Security Fairness Act. So they're getting let's say they're getting a 75% return, but the other 97% of all of us, the exact same income, the same exact monthly earnings throughout our life, we're only getting 50%. 75, 80% here, 50% here. That doesn't sound fair to me. And it's easy to fix, super easy to fix. So DOGE, Elon Musk, President Trump, whoever, the new commissioner of Social Security, super, super easy. The old way of doing it, yes, I agree, it wasn't the best way to do it, but that's the only option they had back in the 1980s. It's called the WEP and the GPO law. It's gone, good, fine, whatever. But to throw the whole thing out and say, okay, now we're going to give these people a higher percentage, that's unfair to the other 97%. And the other 97, why I do these videos is because the other 97% should not be happy about this because they're not receiving a higher percentage on equal earnings. So it's super easy to fix now because the system has been updated for the last 40 years. Now, Social Security since the 1980s have been getting those reports from those non-covered entities where these people were working. So it's super easy to figure it out. It's super easy to say, okay, wait a second. Before the calculation, we're going to give you 90%. Oh, but you weren't, on food stamps and eating out of the trash can for 35 years. You were making, 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000 a year. You shouldn't be over here getting 90%. You should be around here getting 50%. So Social Security can recalculate that. Elon and his computer geniuses could probably write a program to do that in like 15 minutes. That wasn't possible in the 1980s because those earnings weren't reported, but they have been reported. And I know because I worked in a state that had WEP and GPO, these non-covered earnings, and the system, it shows now. So it's super, super easy to figure it out. So we're looking over $200 billion over 10 years. That's going to be paid extra to these 3.2 million. And since anytime Social Security does a calculation, they do it over 75 years. So we're talking trillions of dollars extra that are going to go out to these people that decided not to play into Social Security on their main jobs. Again, I want to be clear. They did pay into Social Security. They are entitled to Social Security benefits. They did earn Social Security benefits. They just did not earn a higher percentage. They do not earn, I would argue, and everybody that I ever talked to about this, they do not deserve a higher percentage than other people that worked. And the argument is always, well, that you're cutting my benefits because I decided to become a police officer, a firefighter, a teacher. No, we're just not giving you the extra percentage. We're not giving it to the other 97%. So why should you get that extra percentage? So, but there's a lot of the 3.2 million. They're going to put a bunch of remarks down there. They're going to say, I know what I'm talking about. But it's interesting that the movement, the leaders of the movement to pass the Social Security Fairness Act, never really told their members the calculations. That's always been interesting to me. So many people didn't know what the calculations were, and that so yeah. All right, so. That's where, so when you see these clickbait things about the extra money, they're not really clickbait. It is going out there, but unfortunately, it's not going to you. And I think that is a crime. I think that's completely unfair. So I think we should come up with a Social Security Fairness Act 2.0 and correct it. So either the 97% get a higher percentage or those 3% get the same percentage as everybody else. So there it is. All right. You got any questions? Make sure you type them in there. Let's pop up, see what we got here. Michael, will only believe when deposited into my account. Wartime vet 79 in June. Yeah. So you are probably not part of that 3.2 million people. So again, should you be? It's either everybody gets the higher percentage or nobody gets the higher percentage, right? To be truly fair, that's how it should be done. Let's see. First off, all you don't know all the facts. Government or service were not allowed to pay into the system, just like a lot of spouses did not pay into the system. They should have been allowed. Whatever in Texas or California or Nevada or whatever, the Chicago, you work for entities that did not pay into the system. So, I mean, the argument is you could have worked at a different place. So, but yeah, in your particular places where you worked at that particular time, you didn't pay into the system for those particular jobs. But that doesn't necessarily mean you should get a higher percentage of what you did pay into the system. If you believe you should get a higher percentage than everybody else with equal earnings, then I would like to hear that argument. Didn't Biden promise seniors $200 raise? What happened to that? Yeah, it just didn't pass Congress. Bernie Sanders just introduced another one to raise the FICA cap so everybody pays FICA on all their earnings. And included in that was a $200 a month, $2,400. Yes, but the problem is, the president can't do an executive order for something like that. He has to pass it through Congress, and others don't want to do that. So. Let's see here. What other kind of questions got? Take and took. Hey, what's up, take and took? It's also because of what I've done, and I have a to break a question up in segments. Okay, yes, sometimes you have to break question. And I saw take and took do a great. Okay, another thing. Okay, wait a second. But he had another thing about because this is going to be very difficult times for a lot of people. So take and took is always looking out for other people. Um, Answering your questions and helping you navigate the this system here. But he was mentioning that in these really trying times, that a lot of people are going to need help, and that's one of the things we do in this channel is trying to bring you the information, the news, and try to help you out. But there's a lot of resources out there. I did a video on living on Social Security alone. Make sure you go into. I've done over 1,000 videos, but I've remade that one a few times. They're all titled "Living on Social Security Alone," and there's like 50 programs I outlined. So if you or someone you know is struggling, grab a pen and paper, sit down, watch the videos. And when I go through the lists, say, well, that's not for me. That's not for me. Oh, number 4 might help me or my relative or neighbor or little old lady down the street out. So please, there's a lot of programs out there. And unfortunately, they're slowly going away. So we need to make sure we reach out to our politicians and make sure, the people that need help get the help. Ask like this person, Bob, asking for a friend. Yes, there we go. That's what we like, Bob. Thank you. Who is permanently on SSDI and only 20 work credits. Will he be able for Social Security retirement benefits when he turns 67? Unfortunately, not. But because he has to have 40, but it sounds like he became disabled before, early on when he didn't need to have the full 40 credits, 10 years of earnings. But he is receiving SSDI, and it doesn't matter in his particular case, because with everybody, it doesn't matter if you're receiving SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. When you turn your full retirement age, and 67 is probably his full retirement age, then it'll just continue. He will continue receiving benefits, and it won't stop. It's just essentially disability benefits. His check will continue. And it won't switch to retirement necessarily because of his. I think actually technically, but it's not an issue with him. Just a bureaucratic, thing that accounting thing where they stop taking money out of one trust fund and take it out of the other. But yeah, yeah, because he was disabled early, it's a little bit of a change for him. But he just continues to continue on, and make sure you watch. You and he watches the video I did a couple of days ago on how did I title it? The next target SSI and SSDI. Because watch that video, and I go through insider tips, tricks, and secrets on how to make sure you keep your disability in this new environment, in terms of you get a CDR, continuing disability review, trial work periods, and all the rest of it. Please watch that video with him, and make sure his benefits are continue and protected. And reach out to your politicians. Tell them don't mess with. And we understand going after fraud, waste, and abuse, but unfortunately, how we see it being done is shoot first, ask questions later. And a lot of people are going to get kicked off of disability and Medicaid and SSI that shouldn't be kicked off because they're just going to, throw the baby out with the bathwater. I got to come up with a different way of saying that. But anyway, how far ahead of when you want to start Social Security should you contact Social Security to set up an appointment to get everything in place for spousal top off and a DAC change for my wife? In terms of retirement benefits, spouse benefits, stuff like that, you can, 3 months before. So if you're going to go ahead and file for retirement benefits, spouse benefits, about 3 months before you want those benefits to start, that's good enough time. You can't really do it earlier than that. I wouldn't recommend doing earlier than that, because if you contact Social Security over 3 months, sometimes there's a few days when the kind of gray area. But if you contact Social Security before that, those claims sometimes are lost because they're kind of outside the system. So, so 3 months before, up to 3 months before. And unfortunately, until the retirement claim is taken, you can't really do the disabled adult, child claim. So So that's why I would recommend doing it as soon as you possibly can. Don't wait for the, a month out or 2 months out. In your particular case, 3 months out. Well, I guess I recommend everybody doing it as soon as possible because it's crazy. It's all crazy out there. So 100% disabled adult son on Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and group home. Upon death of dad, he may receive dad's pension of $25,000 a year, but son must have government benefits to stay alive. Wow. Don't want to lose current government benefits. Yeah. Um, so the child probably is receiving disabled adult child benefits, it sounds like, from the parent, and receiving 50% of the parent's full benefit amount, the PIA, the primary insurance amount. So the child is receiving 50%. When the parent passes away, the child will receive 75%. And it really depends so pension, is that from another pension? Or are we talking about Social Security here? So if we're talking about, it really depends on your state. Some states, they won't count that. So he won't lose Medicaid. Again, they're talking about cutting Medicaid, but not cutting it. So they're trying alternative ways to reduce Medicaid by saying it's fraud, waste, and abuse. And basically any program, it sounds like, that they don't like is considered fraud, waste, and abuse, which is a new definition. It's of fraud, waste, and abuse. It's like, well, I don't like it, so it's obviously fraud, waste, and abuse. We'll see what happens. That's the instructions to the committees to go out there and find $880 billion over 10 years. And what do those committees have control over that has that kind of money? Medicaid. So people don't seem to be putting two and two together. They're coming up 2 to 2 equals, salmon. So, but it depends on the state. So to be preemptive, I would reach out to the state, particularly Medicaid, not Medicare. Medicare, should be good. That's good. As long as they don't mess with Medicare, should be good. Social Security, receiving disabled adult child benefits. So whatever benefits he receives from anywhere, it doesn't affect his Social Security disability insurance benefits, his money from there. The only thing it could possibly affect is Medicaid, because Medicaid is a welfare-based program. But as I said, some states will count that as income and other states won't. So it really depends on your particular state. The group home should be able to help you out as well, but maybe just, it depends how good they are, but maybe reach out to Medicaid and say, hey, and here's the situation. If anything should happen, will Medicaid continue even if the son receives, $25,000, $30,000 a month, or a year. Let's see. Bunny, if we suddenly just stop getting our disability checks like some April, who are we supposed to call if no one at Social Security answers the phone? We can be evicted in 30 days if we don't pay our rent on time. Yes, that is something that DOGE and Elon Musk, they don't realize, because richest person in the world, so don't have to worry about whether you can be evicted on, next month. And we used to have people come down to Social Security, they changed direct deposits or something like that, and then the money didn't get there on time, or they had a paper check and it didn't get delivered, or whatever the case may be, and you had to come down to the Social Security with an eviction notice, a notice to quit, or if it's the summer, you come down with a electric bill, because people need air conditioning in the summer and heat in the winter. So you come down there, and then Social Security can give you a special check out of the office, an actual paper check, immediately if you're due a check, an immediate payment. And when you went to the banks, it was a weird check because it was handwritten. Basically, it wasn't hand; it was printed off. But anyway, it looked like it was handwritten. I had to sign everything. But anyway. But banks used to have to call up and say, hey, is this a real check? So, anytime we gave out one of those checks, we told them, hey, call me. Here's my direct phone number. Tell the bank to call me to confirm it's an actual check. And, but yeah, that's going to end if they're closing down offices. You can't get into an office. So I say we take Elon Musk's recommendation and put it on steroids. He says he's telling all the federal employees, because they work for us, we pay their salary. Yes, that is correct. So he wants them to report every week 5 things they did last week. So Congress people, senators, House of Representatives, they work for us. We pay their salaries. Well, they get most of their salaries from theirs anyway. But anyway, we pay their salaries. So I recommend you contact your senators, House Representative, Congressperson, whoever, and say, okay, I want to report by the end of the week. What did you do last week to make my life easier? What did you do last week to protect Social Security? What did you do last week to, make the life of my family, my community, my relatives, that little lady down the street? What did you do to make their lives easier? I want to report by the end of the week of 5 things you did. And then I'll call you next week and we'll do it again. So I guess turnaround is fair game, isn't it? Right? So. All right, let's see what other kind of questions. And I apologize for skipping people. I just see tons of questions coming up there, and I just pop one, and sometimes I regret if someone starts. Anyway, but when is wife allowed to submit application for spousal benefits off my record? Can she apply now, or does she have to wait until I receive my first benefit payment since I was just approved in February? No, you're old Bob. What's up, old Bob? No, she can go ahead and file now because you've already filed. So, but she won't get her first check from you until your check starts. So you filed in February, so she can go ahead and start hers. But if you decided to start your benefits in March, she won't be able to get her first check until March from you, and then all the rest. And remember, she has to receive benefits on her own record first. So if she's already receiving benefits on her own record first, then she just does the spouse benefit. If not, then she has to file for benefits on her own record first, and then on yours. Yes. Bernie Sanders made a bill to raise the cap. Let's see where it goes. Yes, that has been added a few times. But in this environment, everybody knows on this channel, I always try to be super optimistic, that old Marine Corps sergeant in me, but yeah. Anyway, I worked for the government for about 10 years before that in non-government and paid into Social Security. Was planning to collect my Social Security in 3 years. Will this apply to me? Yeah, the Social Security Fairness Act, it sounds like it depends, again, if you work for a government entity that did not pay into Social Security, then you're going to get an extra percentage than anybody else that, had the same amount of earnings you do. So I guess it does apply to you. So, if you feel guilty about it, you can always give that extra money to charity. So. When are you going to be testifying before Congress? Please reach out to someone. I do all the time. I pretty much on a video. Hey, I'm here. The Social Security Fairness Act. That Elon Musk puts up on his DOGE website. Hey, we found $50 billion. Come on, it's chump change. Yeah, it's chump change. I just found $200 billion for you right there, in your, what was his name, Big Balls or whatever that's the name of someone in his tech team, his computer genius. But I'm sure it would take them, 15 minutes to design a program to actually look at the full CEQI, the non-covered earnings in the CEQI, and then calculate that into the average index monthly earnings and come up with the correct bin points. And so that's easy. I can explain that to them. So reach out to me, and there's $200 billion you can immediately put into your DOGE website. And so easy. Sir, I only work 7 years and earn 26 credits. I am entitled for disability. Can you give me a feedback? I apply 4 years now, 4 time, and all the time denied me. Yeah, it sounds as though you're not insured. You have to pay into Social Security and for at least 10 years, 40 quarters. When the person asked earlier, that's why I say that person was young. So if you become disabled, at 26 years old and you only pay into Social Security, 2 or 3 years, and then you become disabled, then obviously they're not, Social Security is not looking for 10 years of earnings because you're only, 26 years old. But in your case, possibly you're older and therefore it was required to have 10 years of earnings. So that's the 40 quarters. So it sounds like you're not insured. And there's also for disability, there's insured and currently insured. So you had to be insured. Say if you're 55 years old, you had to pay the 10 years, 40 quarters. Okay. But you also have to be currently insured. That means you paid 5 out of the last 10 years you actually worked and paid into Social Security, 5 out of the last 10 years. So Hello, I am 65 and on SSDI. If my benefits get cut off from a CDR, will my Medicare get terminated as well? It really depends. If they determine that is a CDR, that your medical, condition ends, they just might. If it's a work type cease, that they say, okay, you're still disabled, but you're working, like FDR. The guy that started Social Security, he was disabled. He had polio. He was in a wheelchair, but he was working. So for his program that he started, he would be denied for disability because we know you're disabled, but Social Security defines disability as the inability to work. So it really depends. If you are denied because of work, because you go back to work or something like that, your Medicare actually continues for up to, what is it, 93 months. And the reason is which I think is a good reason. They say, okay, well, probably the reason you can go back to work, which Social Security, everybody wants people to go back to work. That's why there's, trial work period and everything. But Social Security wants you to go back to work. Everybody wants to go back to work because you make more money. It's better for your life. You go out there, contribute to society, and you pay taxes when you work, and you no longer get a disability benefit. So that helps everybody across the board when you get off disability and go back to work. So that's why there's so many ways that Social Security incentivizes you to go back to work. But the problem is it's crazy difficult, and that's another thing. If they're trying to make Social Security, reduce overpayments and fraud, waste, and abuse, make it easier for people to report going back to work, report their wages. That would save, billions of dollars. There, I found another few $1 billion. So call me up, guys. I'll jump on a plane anytime you want. But where was I going with it? Okay, yeah. So your Medicare, it really depends on the situation. So they think that the reason you're able to work is because you have health coverage. So having Medicare, having to see your doctors and get your prescriptions and stuff like that is the only reason you're able to go back to work. So quite often that's why they continue Medicare even if you're able to go back to work. So it's a kind of a fine for those are the kind of advanced specific questions in your particular case like that. Um, there are, well, in the old days, last week, there were what's called AWICs. These people probably have all left now. There was a mass retirement party throughout the country on the February 28th. I've gotten contacts from a lot of federal employees that, oh yeah, I'm retiring today. Yeah, just across the country. But there's these people in particular areas, not in every office, but particular areas. They're called AWICs, area work incentives coordinator, and those are the people that are supposed to be really, really good on this type of stuff, and they will look at your particular case, if they still exist, if they haven't all retired, but they will look at your particular case and say, okay, in your particular case, your Medicare will continue or it won't continue or whatever the case may be. But remember, I mean, for you're 65 anyway, so you're going to get Medicare based on retirement. And once you hit your full retirement age, then you're not going to get disability anyway. Your disability is going to turn to regular, retirement benefits. But watch the video I did a couple of days ago on disability. And remember, don't stress the CDRs until you actually have to do one. So both my sister and I get Social Security usually together on the 3rd of the month, but this month I got mine on the 2nd, but she didn't get hers. I was worried that, it just the bank or the Department of Treasury or the way they run the cycles and stuff like that. So I would give it a few days. But again, people that don't get their check or they move or the bank the bank is wrong, then good luck trying to get into Social Security. Yeah. This is a sad time. Since 1935, 80 years plus, Social Security has never missed a payment. So if a payment was supposed to go out to you, never not got a check. And Elon Musk, said it's a Ponzi scheme, but yeah, a Ponzi scheme that's last over 80 years, and there's $2.6 trillion in the bank and never missed a payment. And don't think he has a dictionary and hasn't looked up the term Ponzi scheme. So just received my March payment, nothing different. Let's see here. Let me block this guy. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I think I Push the wrong button. Okay, nursing home, late 2024. My 91-year-old mother spent down for permanent nursing home residency. If Medicaid dissolves, can I get back her retirement, Social Security, Medicare, and PERS? Ohio. Wow, um, that's a hypothetical that has so many different variables there. But your job is to reach out to your politician and make sure they don't touch Medicaid, because Medicaid, a vast majority of it goes to the disabled, aged, people over 65, and children. And those are the most vulnerable of our population. And it really, it's a commentary on American society. Is those are the people we're going to go after first and make them hurt, so we can get tax cuts for, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, if Medicaid dissolves, can you get yeah? And I mean, if she's not receiving retirement benefits, but PERS, so she was PERS in Ohio, so she might be part. It sounds like she's probably part of that Social Security Fairness Act. So I would definitely reach out to the Social Security Administration if you can get a hold of them and see if her benefit amount is going to be increased because of the Social Security Fairness Act. So, um, Thor's paralegal. Okay, Ed, thank you. You're welcome. If I took CalPERS disability retirement now, SSDI, but also worked enough in private sector to have sufficient credits, WEP retro likely? No, there is. Again, starting January, the Social Security Fairness Act, they retroactively put back the law to January 2024. So if you were entitled to benefits back to January 2024, you're going to get that back pay. So, let's see. Is a question I would like to know: what are they going to do about people who are legally disabled rather than SSI, SSDI, or survivors? Two, will those survivor benefits get anything? So likely disabled, legally disabled. Yeah, if you're disabled, then you should apply for SSI, SSDI. When you apply for disability at Social Security, you always apply for both programs. SSI is supplemental security income, the welfare-based program, and SSDI is the program that you paid for when you pay into FICA. But Social Security employees are always supposed to address what we call both programs to see if you're entitled to any more on SSI. So. Let's see. I will be getting SSDI on my record and survivor benefits on my late husband's. Which birthday will Social Security go by for direct deposit dates? Thanks. They kind of grandfather you in that case. If we've had people that they were receiving benefits in their teens when their parent passed away, and then they go file for retirement benefits 40 years later when they turn 62, and the Department of Treasury puts them on their original pay dates when they were in their teens. So it really depends how the Social Security and the Department of Treasury, the computer system, talks to each other. But I would I'd definitely reach out to Social Security. So these are all the things that people in specific cases need to talk to Social Security, but unfortunately they're not going to be there. So I'm going to keep doing these fake news. So Social Security Fairness Act is fake news. Okay. All right. So that whole presidential signing and all that going through Congress, basically it took 40 years to pass that. Again, they should have gotten rid of the old one, but came up with a new calculation. I mean, but politicians are too lazy like that. So anyway, Nature Ali, what's up? Survivor benefits applied, but Social Security agent refused to share or tell me about ex-husband's account. Worried that mistakes were made and could be overpaid. Are they supposed to share ex's information? Not really, because that's your ex-husband, and they don't want you to see how much they're making right now. And Social Security, that's not their job to show you, hey, here's how much your ex-spouse is making right now, and then you use that to go get some more alimony or child support or something like that, and Social Security gets in big trouble. No, they're not, unfortunately. But when your ex-husband goes to file for benefits and there's a mistake at that time, the ex-husband corrects it, because if there's a mistake, that person will get more. But your point is correct. If your ex goes in there and starts receiving those benefits and then it turns out to be less, then yeah, you'll get an overpayment. But that's only if your ex hasn't filed yet. But if your ex has already filed, then your benefit amount should be good. So thank you very much for answering my questions. You're welcome. You're welcome. Did I answer your question? Hopefully that wasn't a sarcastic thing. I love sarcasm, so I apologize if I skipped you. I never got my 2.5% COLA increase this year. Anyone else? Yeah, you probably did. You probably just didn't notice, because the way the computer system works, when they determine what the cost of living, they just take all 70 million records that are in current pay, and they just multiply them, add 2.5%. So yeah, you can again contact Social Security, and they can send you an award letter, and it'll tell you that yes, last year your benefit amount was this, and then you got the 2.5 and your benefit was this. So my wife took Social Security at 62. We are the same age with months. I retired at 65. My Social Security was very little as I fell under WEP. Can she file under mine now with no WEP? We're the same age. So yeah, yes. That is another thing that a lot of people are going to miss with the Social Security Fairness Act, because it sounds as though when you filed, your benefit amount was not twice hers because you had that WEPT PIA. But now you're going to be unwept and get that extra percentage. So that might put you over twice her amount. So yes, I would reach out to Social Security. In that particular case, it's not automatic. A lot of the stuff, all the people that are getting benefits now, they've already been wept and they've been unwept. So you're probably going to get a benefit amount, but they don't know. Social Security probably doesn't know, unless she took a claim. She filed a claim at that time. Doesn't know that there's someone else out there that is entitled to those benefits. So you're probably going to get that extra percentage, that extra money, and then call Social Security. She needs to call Social Security and see if now her benefit amount is less than half of yours, so she can get that extra money. So let's see. I thought everyone gets the same amount based on their earnings. Yes, if your earnings are reported. The problem is those 3.2 million people, their earnings were in a completely different category. When you pull up the SEQI, the summary earnings query in PCOM, this is inside baseball type stuff, but you'll see two categories. You'll see all the earnings of everybody that paid into Social Security, and then underneath it, in a separate columns, you see the earnings outside of the max FICA and outside of actually paying it in Social Security. So those earnings weren't in their part of the calculation. So that's why they're treated like they've been poor all their life. And that's why Social Security is now going to give them an extra percentage, because it looks as though they were poor all their life. So if you've got a lawyer that goes to law school and pays into Social Security for 10 years while they're in law school, working at part-time jobs or something, and then they go work and become the attorney general of whatever state and don't pay into Social Security for the next 35 years, when they go to retire, they're going to get like maybe up to 90%, because Social Security is going, wow, you must have really had a hard time living on, an average of $1,000 a month throughout your life. So we're going to give you a 90% return on that $1,000, because, and here's an application for food stamps and, assisted living, a reduced living or something like that. But the person was making $100, $150, $200,000 for 35 years, but now they're going to get a higher percentage. So it's completely unfair. So let's see. What about our Medicare set aside accounts? I have dollars in an account set up through my workers' comp insurance that I get annually. Will these changes affect my Medicare set aside payment? Yeah, that's nothing to really do with Social Security. That sounds like it's some type of private accounts, Medicare or something. So I would definitely reach out to those private accounts. Let's see. I hope you become president of the United States of America. Oh, wow, that'd be a terrible, terrible idea. If Social Security is pay as you go with its own funding stream, politicians shouldn't mention it in the same breath the federal debt and deficit, right? Yes, 100%. Social Security does not add one penny to the debt. It's separately funded by FICA taxes, but people they like to do that all the time, and then they do And then you say, hey, we should raise the FICA cap so everybody pays into, FICA. Us that make under $176,100, we pay FICA on every dollar we make. If you make over $176,100 this year, you no longer pay FICA on any money after that into Social Security. And when we bring that up, they say, "Oh, to raise taxes is not the solution." We're not talking about raising taxes. Okay, if that's not the solution, we should pay. If someone makes $5 million, they pay zero. I did the calculation one time. 0.43% is what they pay into Social Security. Us, we pay 6.2%. They pay 0.43%. We pay 6.2%, and have to pay the matching. The other our employer pays the other matching, which they obviously take out of our checks. But anyway, that's politicians are tricky like that. They're very tricky. There was one that just went on TikTok today where the politician was asked about that. Some young, very smart guy says, "Hey, if you want to save Social Security, smash the cap, raise that FICA cap." And the politician said, "Oh, that's not my department. That's not my committee. I'll contact that committee and give them that idea." It's like that was the most unbelievable. It's like it's not my department. If we pay a Medicare tax on our paychecks, why aren't we covered for Medicare? Weir Sanders. Yeah, you are covered for Medicare. If you pay Medicare tax, which, FICA, when you pay FICA, you pay 6.2% into Social Security and then 1.45% into Medicare. So, yep, you are covered by Medicare if you pay Medicare for 10 years. Should it cover more? Absolutely should. And a lot of us regular viewers to the channel, we believe that if you pay Medicare for decades and decades and decades, there shouldn't be any gaps. There are gaps. Part A, is hospital, but there's gaps there. If you go into the hospital, you have to pay, a deductible. The big one is Part B. When you get Part B, which is the outpatient doctor type things, if you get like $100,000 surgery, you have to pay $20,000 up front. So that's why people get a Medicare supplement plan or a Medicare Advantage plan. I always recommend Medicare supplement plans. Check those out first, an N and a G. And if it's not for you, usually it's a budget issue. Then Medicare Advantage just takes a little bit more work. You need to make sure you get the right one and have the right one every year. And that's why I partnered up with Chapter Medicare there, because I help with Medicare Part A, Part B. I tell you how to navigate that system, and retirement and disability and Medicaid, but I can't help really because Part C, which I hate that being called that's what they call Medicare Advantage, which I think is a terrible Medicare Advantage, or Part D or Medicare Supplement. Those are private plans, and they are different based on every state. And Medicare Advantage and the Part D are based on your zip code. So I can't really help with that in this type of venue. So that's why I partnered up with Chapter, and they're doing a phenomenal job. And this is also the open enrollment period. If you have a Medicare Advantage plan, you can still switch it. If you find out, did I pick the right plan? Did that agent and helped me out last year? That they enrolled me in the right one? Do I need a new doctor? Whatever the case may be, you can actually switch it. This is the last month. This is March. In January, February, March, you can switch it. It's called the open enrollment period. So if you want to see if you're in the best plan, reach out to Chapter. It's 100% free. They can review your plan, see if they can cover more doctors or save you some more money on prescriptions or get you some more benefits or whatever the case may be. They can also see if they can switch you back to original Medicare and get you a Medicare supplement. Again, that's your budget type of situation, but they can help you out. Didn't the Fairness Act make the first bin point equal to 90% instead of a lower percentage? Well, the first bin point has always been 90. Well, it's not always been, basically since the 1970s. Yeah, you got bin. That's how the calculation is done. You get 90% for the first. The numbers change every year, but the first 1,100, I think it is, and then 32% after that, and then 15%. So yeah, it's just they don't get into that next 32%, and that's how this thing is calculated, is by those bin points, 90%, 32 and 15%. And after doing all those calculations, then you're put on this scale there. So yes. Let's see. Let's see here. Widows. If my husband was alive, we would both get Social Security. But since he died, I'm only allowed to collect on one, but a divorced woman can collect on every husband she's been married to for 10 years. But they can't add them. They only get the higher benefit. So whatever the higher, yeah, they don't get multiple. If someone was married to, 3 different people, they don't get 3 benefits. They just get the higher one. So whatever the higher one is. So when someone is on disability and receiving spousal survivor and try to work, will she lose the survivor benefits? No, unless if you're under your full retirement age, then regular retirement age, annual earnings limit things apply, the 23,400. But if you're making that much, your disability will stop before your survivor benefits, unless, well, that's not correct, because you have the trial work period. Make sure you watch the video I did a little while ago, a couple of days ago, about the details of the trial work period. So if you work, you work a lot. Remember, trial work period, first 9 months, you can make $1 billion a month and continue to get your disability. But if you make $1 billion, you'll still get your disability for that 9 months, but your survivor benefits will stop because you're early retirement, early survivor benefits. So. If Elon's boys were as smart as they claim, their website would not have been hacked. Yeah. I'm still waiting for. I check every day on the website to see when they're gonna cut off the benefits and add the hundreds of billions of dollars of those deceased people supposedly that were getting benefits. But I'm not holding my breath, because guess what? Those deceased people were not getting benefits. That was just fake news. And President Trump actually kind of made a hint that they weren't receiving benefits. He didn't go all the way, but Elon Musk, he really hasn't, said, oops. And if you look at that report and the first thing you think of is, then these people are getting benefits. Okay. I understand that. That's, it's a fair mistake. But if then you're told, oh, no, that's a different record. That's not, those people aren't in pay. That's just Social Security number. It's not the checkbook. It's just a Social Security number. And then he should have said, come out on X and said, oh, okay, never mind. I was wrong. Nothing wrong with that. But he hasn't yet. So Dr. Anthony Wallace, GE, for those who are nursing facilities and receiving home health care, Medicaid is the biggest payer of benefits, but with the cuts, with SSI and SSDI, recipients lose their total coverage. Yes, that is, if we please reach out, let's make sure they don't mess with Medicaid. Look for fraud, waste, and abuse, but don't, use as an excuse to, throw out everything. Because a lot of people in nursing facilities, that's why they're in nursing. That's why they can pay for the nursing facilities, is because they have Medicaid, and yeah, it's going to hurt a lot of people if they start cutting back on Medicaid. So, good night. Can you tell me what is a premium payment? Do you have to pay it before you retire? I receive a bill and I will not retire until October. I don't understand why, and if I need to pay it now. So, premium payment, are we talking about your Medicare Part B premium, the $185? If you're not receiving Social Security benefits until, let's say, October, then if you signed up for Medicare Part A and Part B, then yes, you have to pay it. If you don't pay the Medicare Part B, then they will stop your benefits. I think that's what you're talking about, Medicare. But if you have any questions on your specific case, again, you can call medicare.gov or reach out to my partners there. They can help you out. Penelope, thank you. I have heard differently. Okay, I didn't see that. Penelope must have jumped in there and answered a question. And whatever Penelope told you, she is 100% right. She has been 100% right on everything she has ever said over the last few months. So thank you, Penelope, for helping people out. Watching DC today is like watching the destruction of the Soviet Union with many of the same people involved. Yeah. I wonder who's going to play the part of Boris Yeltsin, right? So anyway, Lech Walesa and all those. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy thing, going out with a whimper. But as Winston Churchill said, democracy is the worst system in the world. except all the others, right? So I think we can come back. Another Winston Churchill thing. I think he actually said this, but what was it? America always does the right thing after they've exhausted all other options. So I think that was, yeah. So I think we'll come back around. Question, 1992, age 27, became disabled from kidney failure, now on SSDI and widow's benefits. If I wanted to make money from a hobby, will they strike me or take away anything? Make around $500 a month. So you said you're on SSDI, widow's benefits. This is not SSI, so you're on SSDI. So no, you're good. Yep. If you make about $500 a month, you're good. You can make $500 a month for forever, and it won't be an issue. The trial work period, you see different things. You see the trial work period and the SGA, substantial gainful activity for disability. The trial work period is any time for this year, it's $1,160. Anytime you go over $1,160, you trigger one of those trial work periods. If you're going to earn about 500, you can actually earn up to 1,000. I wouldn't go up to exactly 1160 because that might, send out a red flag or something. But $1,000, yeah, you can make $1,000 a month for the rest of your life, and it won't affect your SSDI or your survivor benefits. So more power to you. But make sure, watch my video I did a few days ago, because they're going to be, with the idea of going after fraud, waste, and abuse, which everybody agrees, some people are receiving disability benefits that shouldn't. People are receiving SSI that shouldn't. People are receiving Medicaid that shouldn't. But they shouldn't accidentally, on purpose, throw people that need those programs and deserve those programs and are entitled to those programs, shouldn't throw them off as, kind of collateral damage, innocent victims. So make sure you watch my video I did a couple of days ago. Share it with everybody that you know in your disabled community, if you have a disability community, and make notes and all that stuff. So yeah, watch that. And so let's see here. Jeff, doubt very much Trump had anything to do with this. Trump want to take from the poor and give to the rich because he's a complete disgrace. Okay. Yeah, the Social Security Fairness Act, he did support it. He did support it. I don't think he knew about the details. The details are kind of difficult because the backroom calculations, kind of the way the sausage is made is kind of hard to kind of explain. And I paid into those benefits. I should get those benefits. Nobody's saying you shouldn't get the benefits you paid for. We are just saying that you shouldn't get extra more as a percentage than everybody else who worked exactly the same. That's so. I give people the benefit of the doubt. So if you put him down possibly and say, okay, well, here's the deal. These people are going to get extra percentage. So maybe we should try the Social Security Fairness Act, which will save hundreds of billions of dollars over the next 10 years. Then I don't. I'm optimistic kind of guy. I work for a mass district court in the 70s. Would that qualify for the increase? It really depends if you were wept before, if you had the windfall elimination provision applied to your benefit amount. If not, then no, you're part of the 97% like the rest of us. I'm 89% disabled at 57 on SSDI. Should I be worried about losing my benefits? Not sure what 89% disabled is. With Social Security, there's no, with the VA, there's, 10%, 20%, whatever, 100%. But Social Security, you're either disabled or you're not. So, watch the video I did a couple of days ago about, next target, SSI, SSDI. I think that's the thumbnail, the title says. Watch that, and I go into all the details of what things you need to start monitoring, you need to start recording, and, most importantly, reach out to your politicians and say, hey, list 5 things you did last week to make my life easier because we're paying your salary. And, protect Social Security benefits, disability benefits, everybody, for people that actually, deserve them, need them, earn them. Rick, I received a deposit on the 1st March, $904 with a code SSA Treasury 310. What is this? Not sure what the Treasury code. Treasury uses all kinds of different codes. So yeah, are you waiting for a payment? Are you being unwept? Did you? It's probably too early for that. One thing people get strange checks, but it's a little bit too early for, is if you worked last year and paid, you know, into Social Security, and it's one of your high 35 years of earnings, and you're currently receiving Social Security benefits, then your benefit amount will increase. Basically, if let's say you're 85 years old and you worked last year, and that's one of your high 35 years, once Social Security gets that report from the IRS, your W-2 and everything, they look at it and they said, hey, is this one of this person's high 35 years? And if it is, they throw out the low one, stick in the new one, recalculate, and get you your extra money. And they pay it all the way back to January, retroactive. But it's March, so I think it's a little bit too soon for that, because you have to do your taxes and all that kind of stuff. So it takes a little while. Usually those checks, those extra bumps, don't start coming out until April, May, June, July, sometimes all the way in August. So, all right. I apologize. Ebenezer became a boss level support. You are too awesome. Got a lot of people that supporting the channel. I really do appreciate it. This is a two-man operation. My son and I put this together. He tries his best to put all the tech together, but I still mess it up. But he's doing a phenomenal job. And then we've got our partner chapter who helps everybody out with all their private plans. Oh, and I've also got, I've added another partner. People have asking about, in case something happens, Social Security gives you $255 for the lump sum death payment. That's not enough. So if you're looking for burial insurance, you can reach out to my my other partner there, and they can give you a quote on burial insurance. If you've got money in the bank and that's going to cover your burial and, whatever remaining healthcare costs and, debts or anything like that, then I wouldn't recommend burial insurance. But if you don't, then it's good to have it in there. Yeah, it's definitely good, because $255 ain't going to cut it. I've seen too many terrible stories taking survivor claims, and I say, well, here's $255 for the burial and all the. It's been the same way for decades and decades. They really got to get rid of that. Increase it or get rid of it. But I don't think they're going to be doing either of that anytime in the near future. Okay. All right. So that is it for today. I am going to be off tomorrow. I'll put up a video for tomorrow, but I'll be back again the next day and do a live Q&A on that day. Y'all take care. Have a beautiful day, and make sure you take care of each other. Bye-bye.